Take it away.
All right. Welcome to the DG podcast. This is the DG News, episode 4. We're going to talk about news stories that are coming out. We're going to talk about news from this week, and then we're going to talk about video games that are coming out this week. So we've got a lot to cover.
Sweet.
Anything we want to go over first?
Before we roll into the news,
Yeah.
I just scratched my nose, and Chance is going to criticize me as a nose picker.
Of course he is.
I don't know why. Like, I don't really pick my nose, but I get, like, itchy inside of my nose, and I think it's because of, like, nose hairs or something.
Yeah, that could be it. I have no idea.
I'm just not... Of course you have no idea, Jason. You do not know my nose situation. That being said, though... Yes, we do have new stuff. I mean, we could talk about random garbage, but that happens on the other podcasts, and that's where we push that stuff.
Exactly.
I have some weird things to talk about.
Let's roll into the news.
Yeah, and I have an interesting story just to just to tease for the next time. I pissed off a company, but this is gonna have to wait until later.
That's awesome.
This is gonna have to wait until later. Everybody, make sure I remember to talk about that. However. We're going to play the news dump then, I guess.
Yep, right into the news dump.
Distracted Gamer Podcast. Big steaming pile of news dump.
All right, now it's on me, the only focus that we should ever have. This is just an excuse to have a podcast where it just zooms in on me and focuses on what I have to say. I'm delaying because the email I'm open. There it is. All right. For our first initial story, and I'm going to try and do this consistently. I'm going to do the games for gold for the month and then the games for PlayStation Plus. So, the games for gold this month, the month of December. For the Xbox One, we have Sleeping Dogs, the Definitive Edition, which is awesome because Sleeping Dogs is a fantastic game. I rate it higher than a lot of other games. I don't care much for Grand Theft Auto, but I love Sleeping Dogs. I think it's fantastic. The other game we have for Xbox One is Outlast. The sort of early Xbox One game, the scary horror game. I think Lindsay told me she beat it at a friend's house. We also have Outland, which is a 360 arcade game, as well as Burnout Paradise, which is a 360 game. Shifting on to the PlayStation Plus games for the month. We have the website opening, which is part of the story. Okay, full lineup. We have Invisible Incorporated for the PS4, Stories Path of Destinies for the PS4, Hyper Void for the PS3, Tiny Troopers Joint Ops for the PS3, Cross-Buy on PS4 and Vita, Colors Guardians, PS Vita, Cross-Buy on PS4, VV, which is actually a game I've seen, which is a PlayStation Vita game. That last one's actually really fun. And that is our games for the PlayStation Plus for this month. I need to make this cleaner. I have a lot of hesitation. We had inklings and rumors before, but we have finally got a official announcement that Telltale Games is making a Guardians of the Galaxy game.
That'd be interesting.
Whether I care is another story, but we do have a Guardians of the Galaxy game coming out. I did not want to play that audio. But that does actually bring in our next segment.
Well,
interestingly enough. What's that, Jason?
I was going to say, obviously Guardians of the Galaxy is popular at this point in time, but it will be interesting to see what take they have on this game, and because all the Telltale games are pretty much,
I think they're
story driven.
I've heard a lot of negative stuff about the freaking Batman game, and that it's sort of lackluster, not that exciting. And I had the reaction of like, do we need a Telltale Batman game?
Yeah, that's true.
Our next news article, which I found quite fascinating and I was quite excited about, Nintendo released on their website a short, like minute 22 segment of Shigeru Miyamoto actually going to Universal Studios and talking about how they're going to be making Universal Studios collaboration with the Universal Studios parks. So Nintendo will actually start showing up in amusement park and be added to whether or not it's rides or theme park sort of area or that sort of. And I think Nintendo's products work perfectly for an amusement park setting.
Oh yeah, Mario and some of those ones, just they're almost tailor-made for an amusement park mascot, especially in a suit.
And Nintendo has a long history of having been very protective of their IP.
Oh yeah,
partially because they sort of sold it out to a few companies who did really crappy with it. So I'm excited to see them branch out and be very active in their IP, but at least allow it to be participant in places like Universal theme parks, as well as hopefully movies down the road. Yeah.
I would say that they've kept a tight rein on their IPs, like you've said. A lot of it seems to be they have the. Sorry, I'm going to cough.
No excuses. Hold that in. Be a man.
They've really positioned themselves as a family company, and they really try to keep going with that image of the kind of the squeaky clean, and so
I approve of it.
Oh yeah, the best way to do that is to keep tight control on your IP.
Well, not just that, but I think at least it gives them, not that Nintendo needs more exposure, but it gives them more less restrictive experience with Nintendo and Nintendo products and Nintendo characters, and it allows you to interact with Nintendo stuff and enjoy it in another medium, and hopefully you'll see it in more besides just this amusement park in the console.
Right.
Shifting on, our next news article is a VR-related article. We have another one down the road, but we're not going to talk about it until later. Ubisoft is apparently making all its multiplayer VR games cross-platform. And apparently you will be able to play Oculus Rift with whatever's going on. The hope is, because VR is such a restrictive market anyway, that this actually opens up the player base. And you'll be able to play with, whatever Microsoft VR stuff you have, as well as the stuff on the PC. And hopefully, if PlayStation allows it, on the PlayStation VR. They said they have opened it up for it. It ends up whether or not Sony allows that sort of thing, I suppose. Which I think is encouraging for their stuff, because they need a larger player base, especially if you have multiplayer stuff in the VR realm. Let's shift on to a separate story. A story I'm actually quite excited about, and I think it's a fantastic move with Netflix. Netflix announced... Did I lose Jason? I think I lost Jason. I'm calling him back, everybody. This is behind the scenes. What happened?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, we're still doing the podcast. Netflix announced... Jason just dropped. His Skype dropped.
That's weird, because I didn't go offline. It just stopped.
Netflix announced something that I consider to be the best part of Amazon Video.
Okay.
And that's the ability to download and play offline their videos and TV shows and stuff.
Nice.
And what that did with Amazon Video is essentially how it worked is you chose a movie you wanted to download. Let's say you were going to be somewhere where you weren't going to have a Wi-Fi connection.
Right.
And so you downloaded a movie. And what it does is it creates sort of like a timer for that movie, and it says if you don't reconnect to Wi-Fi in like 2 days, then the video will no longer be playable. So it's not like you just get a straight video file. It works within the app and the format that Amazon Video has. And if you connect to Wi-Fi with 6 hours from then, the video is still playable. And it just resets that clock because it knows that, hey, you still have the license to be able to watch this. You're still paying for Netflix, all of that. So it's not like you can just download stuff willy-nilly. But that opens up the possibility for somebody, for a lot of things, like be able to sit there and go, oh, well, I want to download this show, go home and, sit on the bus and watch it, or on a plane, or what have you. I think it's a fantastic move. That's one of the reasons why I always consider Amazon Video to be superior in many ways to Netflix. Well, the main reason, Netflix has a bigger library and a lot more interesting stuff, but the option to be able to sit and watch it whenever you want to is quite attractive. Yeah, apparently it only works with a few of their shows at the moment. Orange is the New Black and the new The Crown show and another one, I can't remember what it is. But the hope is that it opens up to a bunch of other stuff and allows you to be able to download the shows you want to watch and watch them offline on Netflix, which I think is a fantastic move. Yeah.
It's always better on the part of the company in general if they make their offerings
more accessible.
Yeah.
Awesome, Netflix. Shifting on to, once again, we cannot let go, No Man's Sky news. This time, though, No Man's Sky has actually added an update, much to everybody's surprise, since we've had no information from them since October, like 26th or 28th or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is encouraging, and they have added a massive update, which not only adds bases, but adds a lot more gameplay options and some other things. Well, let's read on to the article a bit. It says, No Man's Sky is one of the most talked about games of 2016. Leading up to its release, many had established astronomical expectations about the title. At launch, the game fulfilled some of those expectations with a massive galaxy to explore, but left many disappointed in other regards, including the absence of meaningful late-game loop, the inability to explore true multiplayer experiences, and several other lackluster game elements. Hello Games has remained mostly silent on the No Man's Sky's contentious launch, and a few days ago it responded to the gaming community not with words, but instead with a hefty free update called Foundation. The update adds a significant number of gameplay features. Foundation region update includes gameplay changes, new scanning, stack options, new modes, survival and creative, extensive crafting options, base building and farming, and graphical improvements, motion blur, improved terrain, among numerous other additions. Somebody brought up the possibility of, well, why would I build a base and then restrict myself to one planet and not be able to move on and do other things? Because it's about exploring and traveling.
Right.
And apparently, it actually adds the option to add a warp location to your base. So no matter where you go in the galaxy, you can still warp back to your base.
Back to your base.
Which
that's
solves
good.
that problem and makes it a lot more interesting. And from what I've heard from people talking about it, you can actually add the ability to make like your own space station thing, like the space stations you encounter, and sort of build those and that consider a base. And that as you move to different planets, you can move the space station with you. Which sounds fantastic and an interesting addition to the whole thing. So it actually does open up some things and make it a lot more playable and make it a lot more interesting. So I'm actually encouraged to sit down and play it again when I finally have the time amidst the thousands of games I have to play. Reaction, Jason?
I don't know. I'd never been too impressed with No Man's Sky, but this does seem like a move in the right direction.
Awesome. Encouraging that they came out with something, despite all of the empty space and speculation and all of the random stuff, and then their Twitter being hacked or whatever, and a bunch of the best thing that they can do is keep their heads down and come out. Well, the best thing they can do is actually respond to the community and not keep quiet. But the next best thing they can do is actually keep their heads down and come out with actual content and improve the game. I think staying quiet damaged them more than anything else.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, this seems like a good move. Maybe they should have said, "Just hold your horses. Something's coming." But at this point, they're like, it's like instead of saying, you know, they're actually putting their words into actions at this point rather than just
No, I agree, but you still hire a PR guy for the purposes of, hey, we're working on stuff, hold your horses, yada yada. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I think the silence pissed off a lot of people.
Right. And they should have at least released maybe some tweets or something that said, you know, we're trying to get something ready. It'll be ready down the road. I get they're coming from, you know, they're complaining. They're saying, you know, your stuff is no good. Why are you not talking to us? You promised us this. We're not getting it. But at least they're releasing something. They're showing.
No, this is the least that they could do to try and re-garner and re-excite their fan base. But the huge controversy and people getting like money back for purchasing the game on Steam and all of these other issues, like there was a huge crap storm that they basically just like ignored and put their head in the sand over.
Yeah. And
I don't think that helped necessarily. One interesting side note is they actually were sued for false advertising. And they won the lawsuit, at least based upon the false advertising registered on Steam.
So they got sued, but they were able to show that they didn't advertise falsely.
It was deemed as frivolous, yeah. I think that's at least in the UK's court of law, because it came from a UK court. So, but yeah, they were sued for false advertising. And the claim was, well, the Steam website didn't make any of those outlandish claims that you seem to think that they were talking about. A lot of those simply came from the main game dev, and that's not considered official advertising. It's considered something else. And a lot of the lawsuits based off of specifically what they said on Steam. Because they're like, oh, well, I'll be able to do this, this, and this. And they're like, well, you can do those things. But because it's a randomly generated game, you can't, you won't necessarily see those at the same time, and it's hard to guarantee that you will have those experiences. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is part of the argument, which actually worked apparently in UK courts. At any rate, let us shift on. We have, we didn't talk too much about it. We talked when the game was first announced, but a King of Fighters story. Now, the controversy in this King of Fighters story is partially because the biggest complaint when King of Fighters 14 came out is that it looks like crap.
Okay.
And they made apparently what they're phrasing this as is a graphics overhaul, and that the game looks much better because of this.
Okay.
But from what I've read, essentially what they did with this quote-unquote graphics overhaul is they improved the lighting, and it gave the models and the figures a much better look to them, and they don't look so crappy anymore. So they're like, graphics overhaul, the characters look much better. And I'm like, apparently, according to the technical specs, it was basically just the only thing they can do is do a lighting shift to make it more volumetric or something like that. We have a comparison in the image currently on the screen, and you can also look at the article. The blog posts on every news that we do, and as we've done in the past before we had split up the podcast, is if you want to look up the news article that we used for reference and as a source, you can always open them up in the blog. If that's something you want to do. And it is on what website, Jason?
TheDistractedGamers.com.
You did like a voice for that, which was strange. Let's shift on to our next news article. I think I inadvertently created a new segment, Jason. And I'm not entirely sure why. I'm calling this the That's Racist segment. So, Microsoft earlier, this was like a week ago, Microsoft sent out a promotional email for Dead Rising 4. And the pitch was that some zombies singing Christmas carols, and the email had the subject line. Now, everybody got upset because apparently the 4 N's, 3 G's, 3 H's, 4 A's, people implied that it seemed like you were saying a much closer word to a black man.
A racial slur.
Yeah. And Microsoft was forced to come out and apologize for something that is dumb.
Yeah.
It is just a zombie groan. At no point was this a racial slur, and people getting butthurt about it and getting really all... This is what makes the culture dumb. This stuff. Not because they did anything racist, but because people are looking for things to be upset about. Everybody wants to be butthurt, and everybody is a victim. Don't be a victim. That makes you weak and useless. Don't be a victim. Microsoft did nothing, and this is dumb.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, that's the sound that zombies make.
Yeah.
They're not
a stupid, cutesy article. I don't...
unless the zombies are racist themselves, then... you know, and like you're going to get away with pointing out that zombies are racist. I'm sorry, not going to happen.
They might be.
I'm pretty sure they're...
episode where the zombies weren't willing to attack the black guys because they didn't want to be seen as racist. So the zombies would like avoid attacking the black guys, and they would only attack the white guys.
and then the black guys are like, "What? I'm not good enough?"
Yeah, essentially. And it's funny, too, because at the end of the episode, they make it through the zombie apocalypse, and they end up at a barbecue where all the black guys are hanging out eating. And they're like, oh, yeah, for some reason the zombies are super racist, and they don't want to touch us. I guess they're worried about being seen like they're targeting us or something. It's a good episode. And I guess that's... Knowing our current culture and politics... We will very likely see this segment return. That's racist segment.
Most likely.
Let's shift on to a Steam story. Apparently today we are having the Game Awards. Who freaking cares? I'm not interested in what's been going on, but interestingly enough, to go along with the Game Awards, Steam is having their own awards called the Steam Awards. And not only are the Steam Awards interesting because you can vote for games that are in your Steam library, but the games you vote for, you can actually create your own artificial category for the Steam games you're voting for. Let's go over some of the ridiculous Steam categories.
So basically, if you decide that the game that you liked, just nobody else liked it, you can create your own category for it. And say it's the best game in that category. Yeah,
it's not opening, but let's read some of these. Some of the more interesting categories. The Test of Time Award. Somebody nominated Bad Rats: The Rat's Revenge. Let's see. I'm Not Crying. There's Something in My Eye. Nomination: Car Mechanic Simulator 2015. Just 5 More Minutes Award, nomination Europa Universalis for. Yeah, that's a good option for that sort of game. Whoa Dude Award, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Blacklist. Villain Most in Need of a Hug, Wolfenstein The New Order.
Hitler just does not need a hug.
Game Within a Game, Deadly Premonition, the Director's Cut. I thought this game was cool before it won an award. Euro Truck Simulator 2.
The thing is that the thing that I'm hearing from these game things is that these awards are more useless than they were before.
No, yeah, but it depends on the amount of votes and how big it gets, and then it becomes a more organic thing, but definitely it opens up for people to actually abuse it and make it stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Best use of a farm animal, Ultimate Chicken Horse. Better Than Blizzard Can Do, Marvel Heroes 2016. Let's see. We have the Most Polished Game Award, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition. Let's see. Also, Alien Isolation was nominated for the Villain Most in Need of a Hug Award.
Yes, because we just all need to hug our
aliens.
Xenomorphs.
Mad Max was nominated for the Best Open World. Literally no one could see through the forest of open world games. That's the name of the award.
See, once again, it's so ridiculous.
No, it's dumb, and I'm going to keep reading. The most overrated game, Undertale. Test of Time Award, Valkyrie Chronicles was nominated. I'm Not Crying, Something's in My Eye, Everybody's Gone to Rapture. Just 5 More Minutes, Mass Effect 2. Villain in Most Need of a Hug. Let's see. This was a good... I don't know why. Best in LGBTQA award. The game's name. I'm going to pronounce this as accurate as I can. Uranus.
Oh boy.
Somebody actually tried to get a game category added as because it's based off of the Super Best Friend podcast, but they talk about blackface a lot in their games, and somebody was nominated Omicron as the best use of blackface.
Okay.
So it opens it up for ridiculousness. Greatest Anthem Award. Thought this game was cool. So yeah, this is just funny. More than anything
it's
else.
one thing. It's one thing to have a game award that's best game of the year, best RPG, best audio, best voice acting. But at this point where you're like, this is the best darn futuristic robot, 60-foot robot golf simulator that we've ever had.
Well, you can literally have best use of X button.
See?
Like
exactly.
Call of Duty. It's not Infinite Warfare, but the Advanced Warfare, the last one where you had to like push X to feel at the funeral. When that got a lot of criticism because you would go stand next to the coffin and you had to push X to sort of like have emotions and put your hand on the coffin and feel bad about
coffin.
it. Yeah, and it got so much criticism. You're like,
could you just decide that you weren't gonna feel bad at the funeral and walk past?
You could.
Or did it stop and force you to stand there until you pushed the X button?
I think if you didn't do anything long enough, one of the characters walks over and talks to you. So you just awkwardly stand there staring at the coffin, not doing anything. And eventually somebody interrupts you.
It's like the what was it? Far Cry 4? Where the pagan Min tells you to just wait and he'll be right back. And like if you actually sit there, I think it was
eventually
like 10 minutes.
Eventually he does come back. And he goes, "Thanks for waiting," and then then like he says some things and then the credits roll and you're done. Like you literally did what you were expected to do. As opposed to leave and fight your way out and cause this huge civil war. You just wait. He's like, "Oh, would you wait?" He's like, "Yeah." Our last news article we'll talk about, which is actually worth discussion. Let me actually shift on to that. Is we're going back to VR, like I told you we would. Yeah. So, earlier this year, research group Superdata put out a report that the estimated PlayStation VR sales would reach 2.6 million units sold by the end of 2016. Okay. I thought that was ambitious. Everybody thought that was ambitious. I have no idea why they thought that was going to be so high. They were basically banking on this VR is going to be ridiculously huge and PlayStation VR is going to sell out like crazy. They've modified that number twice now.
Okay.
Once down to 2 million, and because of how bad PlayStation VR sales were during this last sale period with Black Friday and Cyber Monday and the whole week and stuff, they've now lowered their VR sales expectations down to 750,000 for the year.
Wow.
is not just Sony's headset that SuperData is updating the sales expectations for, as it estimates for Google's Daydream is now 261,000, down from 450,000. Projections for other leading headsets include HTC Vive 450,000, Oculus Rift 355, Gear VR 2.3 million have not changed. Overall, SuperData is predicting that VR market will be the biggest loser of the holiday 2016 when it comes to gaming.
Wow.
According to GI.biz. Sony has also pointed out that VR looks even better on PlayStation Pro than standard or slim PS4. So the message to most gamers is get the Pro now, then the PSVR later. As a result, we won't see them break 1 million shipments until well into the new year. Yeah, that's a statement. Lamas went on to say that Sony can't afford to take it slow with PlayStation VR right now due to a relative lack of competition, which is true. Chief competitors Microsoft and Nintendo do not have VR headsets and haven't announced plans to make them. Microsoft actually does have sort of a vague announcement that they plan VR stuff in the future. PlayStation VR came out in October. The headset alone is priced at $400 and now also requires a PlayStation 4 and a PlayStation camera, which are sold separately. Sony has not said how many PlayStation VR headsets it has sold, though the company said in October that the sales are on track. PlayStation executive Jim Ryan said in October that PlayStation VR is expected to sell hundreds of thousands of units at launch. GameSpot's Jimmy Thang reviewed PlayStation VR, saying it's not a must-buy at the moment. As a fan, I want PSVR to succeed, but it trips up too many times to wholeheartedly recommend at this point. Many of the launch titles will make a large percentage of people sick, and it may lead to false impressions that VR has to make you nauseated. If you have a PSVR and are dying to get PSVR, if you have a PS4 and are dying to get PSVR, then I'd recommend the $499 bundle, which includes PlayStation camera, 2 Move controllers, and a PSVR Worlds. If you have PS4 and are simply curious about VR, I'd hold out until more titles are released, yada yada yada. I don't know how much more I can say about how this is not surprising to me.
Right.
And I don't think they're addressing the biggest hurdle that comes to this problem, and that is the price. It is, if you don't have a PlayStation, forking out to get a PlayStation, some games, the PlayStation VR, the camera, the Move controllers, you're pushing closer to $1,000 now.
Yeah,
especially if you're going PS4 Pro. If you're going not PS4 Pro, you could probably do like $800 to get this whole thing. If you already have a console, you're still sitting on top of, especially to get the bundle, like he said, you're still sitting on top of a $500 bundle.
Yeah.
Now, it looks cool. I'd like to try it. I'd like to play it. At no point can I justify a simple, fun, gimmicky sort of thing and spend $400, $500 on. I'm sorry, most people cannot justify what is essentially a peripheral on top of something that they already own that's worth a lot of money and is expensive.
Okay, so the fact that we have that they're wanting us to buy a console or something and then a peripheral on top of it that costs almost as much as the console or the PC or what have you, that, you know, that's just too much. They're expecting too much of us at this point in time. Price
is still too big a hurdle for most people. And you can easily sit there and say, yeah, but I was like, no, $500 is a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And I know all of you hipster douches sitting on the East Coast and West Coast are sitting there going, oh, well, you know, it's this experience. It's like, no, most people can't afford. That's why most people still don't own like current gen consoles. Is they're either waiting for the price to go down or it's just too expensive. And this is basically buying a whole other console on top of it.
Exactly.
I'm not saying the experience isn't fun. I'm not saying that they didn't execute it well, and I'm not saying that the games aren't fun. What I am saying though is the biggest hurdle is the price, and most people don't really talk about that. Like this article doesn't bring it up. They're like, well, we were all expecting these sales, but it's not as huge as we thought it was. I was like, because it's too expensive. I would buy one if it was like $200. I absolutely would.
if they could actually make it so that you could use your smartphone and put that in the headset, and then your
Well, they
smartphone.
Samsung has a VR thing for that.
Right. But no, I'm saying, the not just the Samsung doing it, but like Sony doing it or Microsoft doing it. If they could use the
same
same type of, yeah. I mean, that would actually
that doesn't sell them more
a lot
units.
of the cost.
That doesn't sell them more units, Jason.
No, it doesn't, but it would alleviate some of the cost.
That is a naive premise, sir.
Oh, I'm not saying that they are going to do it. I'm saying that would help if they did that. But that's not the approach that they're going to take. I understand
They have
that.
to get money out of it. But obviously, these things are expensive to make, too. It's just, I don't think the technology and the price have met yet.
No, they haven't.
And much with every trending thing, and there's a famous scientist who actually predicted this. I don't recall his name at the moment. But he predicted that not only will technology become cheaper, but it'll also become more advanced and more powerful and faster over time.
Right.
So as capability of things like computers and technology improves, price will actually reduce.
Right.
And we have not received to the point where, yes, finally it is within kind of consumer price range, but not general consumer price range.
Right.
And it is awesome, and this is cool luxury thing, but it's like the HTC Vive is apparently fantastic. It is the coolest, best experience for VR out there on the market today. It is so freaking... It's like $1,200 for the whole thing.
Right.
There's no way.
Exactly.
There's no way. And PlayStation VR seems like the more reasonable thing, but $500 is still too much for a package. So, I mean, there will have to be some time. I think the fears some have expressed, because everybody kept every single like cool kid podcast on the West Coast in California where they talked about, oh yeah, VR is the new thing, VR is the future. Every new business insider was predicting this stuff. Expected this to blow up bigger than they thought it would. Expected this to be something else.
That's because they're kind of dumb.
I was like, you guys don't... not just the practical implications of... People just want to sit there and play a game sometimes. They don't want to have to set up this huge headset thing, and then there's motion sickness and stuff. But I was like, it's just not... This isn't going to explode as fast as you people think they are. I think eventually we will start to see more VR, more places, or more accurately, as people like to call it, the give-up machine.
Well, we've been saying this ever since they came out with that first prediction. When they're like, oh yeah, we're going to sell, what was it, 2 million
2.5
plus?
Or something like that.
2.5 million, and we're like, never going to happen.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way. You way overestimate not only the value of this thing, but the fact that people are going to run to it screaming. Like, I guarantee you, I put on a VR headset and I was like, this thing's amazing. I'm going to think it's the coolest thing ever, and it's going to be a lot of fun. My biggest complaint has always been the price range and the fact that people aren't going to be playing it as much as they think they are. Lindsay really easily gets motion sickness. There's no way she's going to be playing VR stuff as much as people think that. It's like she just can't. Lindsay gets motion sickness playing first-person shooters. I'm not joking. And it's like, oh, let's sit down and play Gears of War, or not Gears of War. Let's sit down and play Halo or something, because I've got Halo. I got 2 controllers so that we could play it together when I first got the Xbox One. And it's like she can only play for like an hour, and then she starts to get nauseous.
And she's like, yeah, I'm done.
And it's like, it's not going to... And I was like, there's no way she's going to survive VR. VR is going to be like a 5-minute experience for her.
Yeah.
And just some people can't handle it. But once again, price point is way too much for this sort of thing. But I think I've said my piece, but people way oversold this. They're like, oh, this is going to sweep the nation. I was like, nope, it's not. It's too expensive. It would sweep the nation, theoretically, if it was cheaper.
It's just like the 3D TVs.
Yeah. And
they're like, oh, this is a new hot thing. And it's like, who has a 3D TV anymore?
I don't want to reduce the two concepts to being overly simplistic, but they are both very gimmicky.
Yeah.
And very sort of these are luxury items, and by necessity, luxury items are always restricted to those who can afford it.
Right. Exactly. As soon as you make this you put this in the reach of the common person, not in not a luxury type item, then
it'll open up.
Yeah, then it'll open up.
Yeah. Now this is a Corvette. This is a Cadillac. This is in the realm of you have extra money. This is the luxury item realm.
Yep.
Down the road, when it becomes more affordable for the general audience, it'll be different.
Right.
But that's going to end the news dump segment. We're going to shift on, I suppose, to yours and let you take over the rest of it.
Yep, we got a bunch of games coming out this week. But I've pared down the list to the ones that looked either interesting or amusing to me. So first off, the one that we have on here is The Crew Ultimate Edition. Now, this one is kind of coming out in a couple of different ways, and you're going to have to... I looked up the site, Ubisoft's site, and if you click on that link, the link over at Ubisoft is actually broken. So, hopefully Ubisoft will get it together and get the link back up. But The Crew is a racing game.
I have The Crew. I got it with Xbox Live a little while back.
Uh-huh.
You probably have it as well, since you've had Xbox Live for a little while.
Yeah, possibly. I don't remember which ones I have.
I actually found it quite fun. It's one major problem.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot play it unless you're connected to the internet.
Oh, yeah. That's too bad.
It has to register that you're online so that you can play, and it's basically a massive map of the world of the U.S. just smaller, like restricted.
Okay.
So it's a bit reduced. So it's not to scale, but you can basically drive across the country.
That's pretty cool.
And it's huge. And you do missions along the way, and you basically have these like street racing missions where like somebody did something and killed your brother or something, and like you went to prison
by street racing.
Yeah, you went to prison, and then the FBI got you out upon the thing of like, well, you don't like them and we don't like them, so you're going to work with us to take them out, and we need a racer. So the FBI is going to like give you money to race for them to try and infiltrate this organization because people already know you as like this criminal thing or whatever. And the racing is fun. I actually quite enjoy it. I really enjoyed sitting down and playing it. If the internet went down, I couldn't play.
Right.
And that was my biggest complaint about the whole thing. Yes, you can run into cops and run away, so it has a bit of that like Need for Speed Most Wanted sort of feel to it. But a lot of it was really just racing in a lot of different environments, street racing. You can run around in the mountains, you can get ATVs depending on the mission and that sort of thing.
Right.
And I found it fun. Its biggest hindrance was the online. That and you did exist in a sort of an open world thing, and when other people were online, you find yourself driving past them sometimes. Or like to see them on the map, but
this is actually the good time to get The Crew because what they're doing is they're releasing their final
DLC.
DLC, yes, that's what it is. Their final DLC. So if you already have The Crew, the final DLC is coming out. I forget off the top of my head which one it is, but it was listed in that trailer. But on top of that, they're releasing the Ultimate Edition, which is going to have all the DLC. So it's coming out at the same time as the final DLC. So the next one, and this is one
maybe me and you will have to try playing it down the road here, but yeah shifting on.
So in case you've been hiding in a hole, Final Fantasy 15 came out this week. So I don't know what to tell you about it.
I heard that the reviews are actually pretty good. Mid 80s to high 80s apparently, which is higher than I expected. Some people are saying this is a return to Final Fantasy. I don't think it ever really left. We had Final Fantasy 14, the MMO that was running forever.
Right. the thing is that this looks visually appealing to me. I can't
don't like
say
the boy
anything about the
band.
game mechanics. Yeah, and the whole boy band thing looks really odd, but
These
the
boss fights look
environment.
amazing.
What was that?
These boss fights look amazing, I must
Oh
say.
yeah, they do. The combat mechanics look interesting. The enemies look really well done. The environments are amazing looking. But I think I'd like to give this one a play. I like the Final Fantasy games. The whole thing about this being a return to Final Fantasy, the thing is if you know the history behind the name Final Fantasy, you'll know why that makes no sense.
Yeah. The
Because-
first version was supposed to be the last one.
The first Final Fantasy game was supposed to be the last one they were ever going to make.
Yeah,
They
'cause,
made so much
Square
money.
Enix was running out of money, and the company was going to close.
Yep. They made the game, they made so much money, and they keep going Final Fantasy this and Final Fantasy that, but none of the games really tie together. I think there are some that do, but
I think 1 and 9 connect. Final Fantasy 12 is apparently supposed to be in the same universe as Final Fantasy Tactics, just much later time-wise. So some of them kind of do, but it's not in the as sweeping as we sort of think it is.
right.
But yeah, they're basically their own standalone individual stories.
So when they start saying things like this is a return to Final Fantasy, you're like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, I
'Cause-
don't know. But it looks fun. I'm actually somewhat interested. It will have to be sometime
does.
down the road, I think, when I either find time or have the money to sort of delve into Final Fantasy 15. I know Lindsay looks like she'd really want to play it too. And I told her, I was like, I could get you that game, but you're not going to have any time to play it. Like, she
Right.
is like up to her neck in vet school stuff where she might not see the light of day for 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Final Fantasy. They've tried to make these sweeping, epic RPGs, which really means that you pour a lot of time and effort into it. So
They are time sinks, yeah.
yeah, they are. But this one looks good. I am still, I think, more interested in the remake of Final Fantasy VII.
Well, you
than
and
I am in
everybody
this
else.
one. But
This game, I think, was 10 years in development.
yes, Final Fantasy
I think
15
this
was a
is
long time in
supposed to be
development.
a PS3 release.
Yeah, I remember that. So anyway, let's move on. The next one is Star Trek Bridge Crew. This one's coming out for Rift Vive and PSVR.
I thought
And
that this looked more like a I don't know, proof of concept sort of thing. I didn't expect a release. It looks fun.
And the thing is that this is quite an interesting. Like you said, this looked like a proof of concept, especially the way they're doing this commercial here for it, where they've got actual actors from the Star Trek series.
Yeah, that's when they first sort of showed the gimmick. They actually brought in people who were on Star Trek. They had Geordi,
7 of 9.
7 of 9, and the guy from the newer movies.
He plays McCoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carl Urban.
Carl Urban.
Yes. And so anyway, I mean, this is a great concept for the VR. This is an awesome concept for the VR. You sit down, you're playing, you choose your character, and you play as part of the crew of the Enterprise. And you have a captain, you have a tactical officer, you have a science officer, you have all those officers that are running the different things. Communications, weapons, what have you, and it really looks like an awesome concept, an awesome way to use the VR in this situation, where you are a crew member and you are supporting your crew. This to me looks like what they could do with VR for the Guns of Icarus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
this definitely
set kind of
seems
in the
like
Star
that.
Trek.
If you're really into Star Trek, you're gonna love the crap out of this.
Oh yeah.
I remember seeing LeVar Burton talk about it. I don't know if it's in this video. This seems pretty much like the video I've seen. But he talked about it. He's like, because that guy was on, what, Next Generation for how, what did that show last for, like 7-8 years? He was on that forever, and he's like, it felt like I was just back doing the same thing I was doing before, and it felt very real, like you were in the world. And he did the whole, like, okay, moving about, Captain, and all those sorts of things, because that's what he did. He did that for years. And that seems neat that he was able to actually sort of suck in an actor who actually did that for a long period of time.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, it looks really cool, and this is an awesome use for VR. Awesome use for VR. And I would totally like to do this, just to try it out.
Still price.
Still price, yes. Okay,
I wonder if there's the possibility if you can get multiple PlayStation VRs, connect them to the same PlayStation 4, and then play them with other people. I wonder if that's possible.
I would wonder
can
that
your PlayStation not handle rendering to PSVR headsets?
I would think that would be pretty difficult for it to do, but
I'd be curious if that's possible, though.
Yeah.
Because you want... I think the best part of that experience would be playing with other people.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Oh, yeah. This particular game, if you're not playing it with somebody else, it
eliminates the fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can move on.
Really
Sorry.
Anyway, so the next one, we have Darksiders War Mastered Edition. I know we've talked about this before, and I don't know if it just got pushed back or what exactly happened.
Well, it's back again.
But it's back on our watch list again. This time it's the PC, and I don't know if it was just before they'd released it for the Xbox and the 360, and now they're finally getting to the the PC version. But I do like a couple of things about this. The story is interesting to me, the whole post-apocalyptic thing, but with the whole war between heaven and hell and the four horsemen of the apocalypse and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I do like that they're not trying to charge you as if this was a new game.
So it's sort of a remastered upping, but it's what, they're probably charging $30-$40 now?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So you play as War, one of the four horsemen. You are tricked into you're tricked into triggering the war between heaven and hell before it was supposed to start, and so hell ends up winning. And then you get stripped of most of your powers and tossed down as a mortal to earth or something, and then you try to figure out who it was that screwed you over and try to put things right. Yeah. So, and they seem to have done a really good job with the upping of the resolution and everything for the War Mastered Edition. Anyway, let's move on to the next two. The next one that is called Steep. It's on Xbox One, PS4, and PC. This one would be amazing for a VR headset game.
Gosh, this would drive you nuts. You get not only would you get motion sickness, but you would have people almost peeing their pants as they're going off the edge of cliffs.
Uh-huh, exactly. That's why I'm sitting there going, oh, VR, this would be awesome for VR. This one's from Ubisoft, and like you mentioned in that article, Ubisoft is trying to do all of their games cross-platform so that they can, But this game is a extreme sports game, winter kind of edition thing. You've got
it looks cool.
Snowboarding, skiing, parasail snowboarding. I don't know what you'd call that, and wingsuit stuff, and just tons of stuff. The resolution looks great. The gameplay looks really, really awesome.
A well done downhill skiing and snowboarding game is still fun, and it's just not the type of game I'm usually into. But when they come out with really good ones, I go, yeah, that seems like something I'd like to play.
Yeah, and this one looks like it would be a blast.
I used to play Snowboard Kids all the time.
So, Let's move on to the last one. The last one in our list today is called Maze, as in the corn, not maze as in the like Maze Runner.
Right.
So
not lost, but eating.
Yeah, you're not lost. You're eating corn. No, this one has a really odd premise,
Okay.
and that's why I put it on here, just because the premise is so odd.
You play as animated corn?
No. What it is you're trying to figure out what the story behind corn is. And you are investigating this government installation.
It looks
where,
like both because it shows a maze and it talks about corn.
Yeah. It's a first-person adventure game about what happens when two scientists misinterpret a memo from the U.S. government and create sentient corn.
What?
Exactly. That was my reaction too.
You're going to go, wait a minute, what? Science has gone too far. We've made real animated corn. How was that a thing? Why was that an option? Still, one of my favorite episodes of The Simpsons is where they combine like a monkey and a parrot or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And the parrot turns to the doctor that's sitting there. It's like, Homer asks him to do something, and he goes, we don't play God here. And the other guy goes, what are you talking about? You do absolutely nothing but play God. And he's like, look at that parrot monkey over there. And the parrot turns to him and he goes, Polly shouldn't be.
I remember that.
Yeah. This corn shouldn't exist.
But you explore an abandoned farm and an underground research facility. You try to discover the secrets as to
So are you a person?
what happened. Yeah, you're a person.
Okay.
Although you do have a sidekick.
Who's corn?
No, it's a robotic Russian teddy bear.
What? Like, at no point is anything syncing up in a logical way. Like, I expect you're either playing as a sentient corn or your sidekick's a sentient corn. No, you're an actual person and you have a robotic Russian sidekick?
Uh-huh. Who's a teddy bear?
Oh my gosh. Like, this is beyond, like, acid trip dream. This is, like, the weirdest premise. Because none of it follows any logical pathway.
Right. I love this feature bullet on Steam for this game. It says, meet some friends and enemies along the way, which include a very small, grumpy Russian robot bear and an unhinged cornstalk who's a bit of a jerk.
Well, like, imagine having that conversation. Okay, what's this game about? Well, it's a story about a government agency that was doing experiments and created sentient corn. You're like, sentient corn? It's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you play through the game. Oh, so you play as a corn? No, you play as a human. Oh, okay. You play through the game trying to discover what's going on. And you have a companion. Who's your companion? A Russian robotic teddy bear? Why a Russian? Like, at what point does that make any sense? Like, it's just each question after another comes up with a more ridiculous answer.
Uh-huh. And that's why I put that one on here.
Think of that would be a good idea is now the dumb idea.
I was sitting there going, wait, really? They're making this into a game? Are they? Oh, okay.
You brought this up under the same premise as to why I brought up Swiss Army Man.
True.
Because it was a ridiculous, dumb like concept, and you're like, I gotta talk about this.
Uh-huh. Yep. I mean, the graphics don't look stellar by any means, but they don't look bad either.
I don't have a way to judge that. I'm watching a hype trailer, so.
Yeah. But actually, now that I'm looking at it, some of the images that they have on Steam are actually much better than I thought they were from the trailer itself.
You notice the logo has a farm up top, maze in the middle, and at the bottom it looks like a maze, literally.
Right. It's got the whole underground structure kind of thing going for it.
Right.
But yeah, so those are the games that looked interesting this week. And, really, seriously, if you were at all intrigued by the concept behind Maze and you decide that you want it and play it, let me know.
Please.
Because I'd love to find out more about this game.
Please share.
Other than that, kind of a teaser for next week. We have a couple games coming out. Dead Rising 4 is coming out next week. And, oh shoot, what was the other one? I forget what the other one was that was coming out next week. Anyway, Dead Rising 4 at the very least, I should say, is coming out next week. And the mech suit thing looks really cool. Anyway, that's it for the video games coming out this week. Hopefully you found something there that you could enjoy, and let us know what you think of them. If you are going to play these ones or have them and you've played them, let us know what you think about them. And you can send us an email at thedistractedgamers@gmail.com, and we will read your email. That's what we do.
Yeah, no guarantees we're going to do you justice.
Of course not. Anyway, anything else that you want to leave with?
No. Have fun this holiday season.
All right.
We're gearing up for the final push here.
Yeah. That's it for the DG podcast, and we'll see you on Monday.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Distracted Gamers podcast. If you like the show, follow Rhett and Jason, the world's two most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter @DG Podcast, or check them out at www.thedistractedgamers.com. If you loved or hated what you've heard here, email them at thedistractedgamers.blogspot.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason will care, since he hasn't any, of course.